Kev is a registered clinical counselor here in Vancouver. He's a theater creator, and he is specifically interested in the intersection of performance and mental health. So he is absolutely the perfect person to have as facilitator for this panel. Hello, Kev.
Hello, Patrick.
Welcome. Up next, we got from Montreal, beaming in through cyberspace, it's Vinny Francois. Vinny is a teacher, performer, and director at Montreal Improv. Welcome, Vinny.
Hello. How's it going?
You do look like you're beaming in through cyberspace. You're in
I am coming in through
Netherlands.
cyberspace.
All right, next up, we got John Gebertatosi, the Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Huge Improv Theater in Minneapolis and the founder of Blackout Improv. Welcome, John.
Oh, hello.
Wonderful to have you. Coming to us from currently from Capilano University in North Vancouver, it's Ali Froggatt. Ali was the founder of Sourdough Theater, which has recently transformed into Tightrope Improv Theater, which is Vancouver's newest comedy school, Vancouver's newest improv school. So that's super exciting. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And last but certainly not least, we got Ronald Dario, Vancouver's sweetheart, baby. Ronald is a faculty member at Blind Tiger Comedy here in Vancouver. He teaches improv and sketch. He works in film and TV. Welcome, Ronald.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Oh, my goodness.
Thank you.
This is amazing. You're all wonderful people. I'm going to turn things over to Kev to do a land acknowledgement as we begin the panel. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Patrick. And yeah, I'd love to do a land acknowledgement in the way that I've received it and the teachings that I've received, which are ongoing and they're part of my learning process. But the way I understand a proper land acknowledgement to go is to introduce yourself. My name's Kev Kokoska, as Patrick said. My ancestors are from Poland. They immigrated here from Poland. Our last name, loosely translated, means broody hen, which is in some ways really, that's my family's character in a nutshell. And to acknowledge where I am, we're on the internet, but I'm also in a place which is in Vancouver, which is on the unceded territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And also to announce what our intention is tonight. And my intention is to hold space and to facilitate a conversation, like Patrick noted, on what we've been up to over these past 19 months, how that may pertain to mental health. I'm a mental health person, so most things pertain to mental health for me, but we'll see how they do for these performers of ours. And also to warmly welcome and open the Vancouver Improv Festival, which starts tomorrow, but it's also starting right now. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you all for tuning in. Hello, Vinny. Hello, Ronald. Hello, John. Hello, Ali.
Hey,
Hey, Kev.
Kevin, I got a $20 bet with myself that you're sitting in a chair that has like your knees like hooked forward. Is that what we have here?
You nailed. This is already off. This is such a good. I'm in a chair that's on a spring. That's on a spring. I just got it on Facebook Marketplace. It's this. I can do this. $20, Canadian dollars. It's gonna be less than $20 in American dollars where you are, but you win. But I would love to start us off. So I really only know a few things about mental health, and I'll probably say all of them at some point in this conversation. But what I do know is what we try to do in mental health is not remove a coping mechanism or an outlet, a creative outlet, without replacing it with a healthy one, right? And so we know over this past couple of years, one or many outlets or coping mechanisms have been taken. But I'm curious to start a conversation. Is there anything we've gained creatively, innovation-wise, things we weren't up to before as it pertains to improv?
Yeah,
I'll say
yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, like right around the time the pandemic started, I was at Montreal Improv. I was the general manager there, and I was in the process of kind of transitioning out of that position because I was feeling really burned out of just running that theater, and I had been looking completely fortuitously looking at doing online improv stuff, and I thought it was a really unexplored space. And then pandemic hit, mid-March, and there was nowhere else to go but online, and everyone else was jumping on board, and I was like, yeah, okay, great, this is where it's at. And and I've told people this every time it's come up. Like, I was super skeptical about online improv. Someone who has spent 20 years, doing in-person live, that feeling of being on a stage is in no way kind of captured by being online in front of a camera all by yourself. The crowd doesn't feed off each other. The performers doesn't feed off the crowd. The performers don't really feed off that in-person energy. And so I was super hyper skeptical about online improv. But then the more I did it, the more I got excited by the idea of figuring out like how to make it work and the advantages of it. And so yeah, I totally switched from in person to online, and it's become a hugely rewarding creative endeavor. And I started off Improv College and online classes and all these teams from people around the world. So for me, it's been amazing. It's just been an eye-opening experience.
Do you feel ready to return to in person, or will you remain online, do you think?
I'm staying online. I mean, at some point I will do in-person stuff, but I'm in no rush. I'm feeling super fulfilled, and my time is full with online stuff. So yeah, that's going great. I'll keep going.
Hell yeah.
How about for you, John? What was your first online? Was your first online improv experience during COVID, or were you already doing online stuff previous?
No, I think it was during COVID. I thought, I don't know. I just was like, I don't know, whatever, like everyone else, you don't know what's going to happen. So I was just like, well, we'll just try to make a little playground or some jam or some kind of, something. I really didn't think it was going to work. I didn't, honestly, I just thought like, I don't know, who wants to, like, I didn't think that people didn't want to do it. I thought the technology wasn't going to catch up to where people were at. So like even get to this place, even myself, I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like there's no delay. Like I thought there's going to be, I'm pretty picky. And the fact that people can even roll through when people have like sort of like internet snags and they get all garbly. People nowadays just like, man, whatever, we'll just wait it through. We'll just kind of like use context clues. We'll just understand. So I'm still blown away that people just like they just want to make it work. So yeah, I just jumped right into it, but was skeptical, still skeptical, very blown away every time.
Has anybody ever heard laughter? Like, is there a way where the audience put their mics on, or have you just never heard laughter during your online performances during COVID?
No, I don't hear no laughter.
Well, when I'm doing online improv, I encourage the players to keep their mics on, and they become the audience for each other. So they make each other laugh. And that's actually a really great feedback system for us. And because there is no audience, we can't get that immediate audience wave of energy. We have to provide it for ourselves, and we're our own audience, we're the performers and the audience for our shows. And it's great to when you hear the performers who are off stage, if the camera's off. And you hear them laugh, and it's like, great, that's enough. That'll do.
That's a good laugh. If I can make Allie laugh of Allie's own volition to show up to this,
Yeah,
an involuntary laugh. Come on, that's good feedback.
that's good stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if this answers your original question, but I definitely was not down with virtual improv when it first came up. Like, I was like, this makes me so sad. I don't want anything to do with it. But I had started working with the UBC's Brain Wellness Program, doing improv for brain health. And then the Parkinson's Society of British Columbia, we had started doing classes for folks with Parkinson's. And for them, they're like, we have to continue doing our stuff online. So that was actually the thing that got me online, was teaching those classes. And it actually turned out to work really, really well, because it became more accessible to this community of folks. So some people who would have, it would have been a big activity to get their caregivers to bring them to a location and, go inside and then go home and all of that, became just really accessible. And you could just turn on your computer and come in and play. And we work with lots of folks with compromised brain health. And, it's just been a blast, and that's changed my mind about virtual improvisation in terms of how it can actually connect people. And that was like my weekly group, was teaching this improv for brain health and improv for folks with Parkinson's. And we created now we've got a improv group of all people with Parkinson's disease, and they've done multiple shows online. They're so funny.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're just starting to explore getting back in person, and trying to figure out, like, how do we do this? How do we do it hybrid? And another thing, as I'm sure everybody knows, it can connect people when you're not in the same city. So people who have been all across the province or in different countries have been able to connect, and especially this group with Parkinson's. Like, we have people from Toronto and people from California, and they all get together and share this really cool thing every week, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. So that changed my mind about things, but it's still been a tough thing for me to really get into in terms of moving improv virtually.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. Are there standout? I'm just so curious about the brain health. Are there standout games or exercises that's? I'm not asking for the research on this, but if you have it, submit it to the chat. Submit a PDF. that tend to be associated with brain health. I'm sure it all is, but in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, tons. It's the Improv for Brain Health. We work with folks with a lot of different kinds of compromised brain health, whether it's Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, or folks who have had like brain surgeries or recovering from anything like that. So, I mean, it's a lot of different things. One big piece of this is connection and the combat of depression and feeling isolated when you do have compromised brain health, or in general. And that's been a big thing, is creating community for these folks. But there are lots of exercises that we found have just been really, really helpful. And we are in the process of doing a study with the UBC. It hasn't launched yet, but we're like getting ready to do it, which is really exciting to see how improvisation can help your brain health. I've always thought of it as just exercises for your brain, right? Just keeps you sharp, and you warm up, and you warm up your body, but like you should warm up your brain too. So
that's applied improv. Like sometimes you see the ads like corporate improv will come to your event, but this is like science improv. Like, we'll let science have say on how helpful and cool improv is.
Yeah.
Is there Ron, what was your experience of doing? Do you recall your first online performance?
Yeah, it was pretty quickly after everything kind of shut down. My improv group and teaching sort of happened at the same time, and I think like everybody here, after performing for several times a week for many years, I just wanted attention, and I wanted people to pay attention to me speak and make them laugh. So I was really eager to jump on and start doing it, and I'm also fearing the exact same things that everybody else, any sort of lag, all of this sort of stuff with early us being on Zoom and stuff like that, of not knowing the tricks of like when somebody's lagging. Now we all know how, like, we can deal with it really easily, and the audience now is used to that because they're also experiencing Zoom and lags and people cutting out or people accidentally not pressing the mute button. I'm sure we've all experienced improv scenes now where somebody's on mute, and we have the shorthand tricks now to jump into it. But yeah, at the beginning, I remember after a couple of shows and a couple of classes just being like, I don't know if this is good. I don't know. It definitely wasn't scratching the same itches as live performance does, but it was starting to open up like new pathways. I think I definitely see performers, whether they're students or people who've been doing it for a while, connecting with their scene partners a lot more on Zoom, because we have to. We don't have the audience to guide us, so we kind of, if there are only 2 or 3 of us on the screen at the same time, even though we're staring at a computer screen or down the barrel of the camera, we're all looking at each other being like, is this at least making us have fun right now? So definitely eking out the new ways to like just figure out what performance is for us. I think this time has sort of in a positive way opened up that at the very least. And I see a lot of students, and it's bananas now because it's been 19 months for most places. There are a lot of students who have gone from like an intro 1 class all the way to like a long form class or whatever the breakdown is, and they've only done it online.
Wow.
And some of these people have I have a weekly show. So some of these people have done a guest spot in duos or something at our show, and it's their first time doing live improv. It's their first time doing improv with a scene partner that they've maybe been performing with on shows and stuff like that for the past year and a half, but they've never done a live show together, so they don't even know how to interact with each other. And even though that can be kind of clumsy, the physicality is not really there yet because they haven't had the chance to explore it. They're connected to each other because of all of the shows that they've done online with each other, having to be like, we have no feedback. We're just going to commit to each other and make sure that we are taking care of each other. Where I think, there's trade-offs. The other way is, I'm sure everybody here has taught some classes where your students go and do their first or second live show and they kind of sell each other out for the audience and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see how different performance is on live versus online.
Yeah. Me as an audience member, if I knew I was watching a live show of people who know a lot about improv but have only ever done it online, that would be a big sell for me. I would love to watch that.
For sure.
Because I've taken some improv classes, but the thing that teachers say is like, no talking head scenes, things like this. And now we are talking heads in these talking squares. But what you're saying is, it's not really talking head scene because the connection is deeper. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think just when you don't have that feedback, you're not searching for what the audience, maybe with the direction the audience wants to go, or if you're a more seasoned improviser, playing with the audience's expectation. But when you don't have that audience feedback, you're just playing with each other, and or the back line too. So it feels like a very different way to improvise, which has been interesting to like pick apart while you're in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering what you did after an improv scene.
Yeah. Do the rewards of doing of feeling good about a show or a scene, do they feel different when it's online? Like Ronald, you were saying about the scratching an itch, or there's some itch that's not being scratched being off stage, but then there's new pathways that are opening up. Is it different? Like, you give a lot of energy to this work, but we're not getting it necessarily back from the audience. But does that feel different after a good show? I guess, how do you know when it's a good show if we don't have the audience there?
Are you asking me or the whole?
Or anybody.
Is the question, does it scratch the same itch, or if it is scratching an itch, can you specifically name the itch that it is scratching?
Yeah,
I can do the latter. I can definitely do the latter. The itch that it is specifically scratching, I would have to say would be the creative itch, this ability to kind of, play Tetris and kind of like find ways to solve these problems with your fellow human species. But also to get around some of this technology crap, you know what I mean? That does feel good. If I can find a filter that works for a moment for whatever it is that I'm having to do, that's kind of cool. If I can genuinely put some fear of God in them, I'm like, whatever. Like anybody I'm playing with, I can make them like freak out a little bit. That does, all those things are good things in the bucket for me personally, and that satisfies like a certain thing that I need.
What is there something that tends to put the fear of God into people you're playing with?
Yeah, when I pretend that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to quit, or if I don't know, there's a few things.
That's cool. How about go ahead.
Yeah, I get a huge kick out of it isn't the same kick that I get out of performing live. It's like they're two different media, I'd say. It's almost like comparing singing to playing an instrument in some ways, or I don't know if that's right either, or just going to a museum or going to a concert. I don't know what the analogy is, but they're related but different itches and different they're just different media. Like I guess it's the difference between theater and television, perhaps. Where when you perform a live show and the audience responds to it, it gives you something. But then crafting like a really great video and a sketch, and it's hitting and it's landing, and it feels good that you've made a good product, then that also feels great in a different way. And so when I'm doing live improv, I'm getting a huge kick out of goofing around with my friends and getting that response in the audience. Whereas on online improv, I'm like, I feel like I'm playing with this new medium, finding new ways to have fun with it, and still playing with like my fellow performers, and hopefully still trying to get that connection with the audience. And then, debriefing after a live improv show and debriefing after an online improv show, that doesn't feel that different to me, because then we're just kind of reliving those moments, sharing those, kind of like giving each other like, oh yeah, I knew where you're doing this, and that kind of camaraderie and the sense of community is still there too. And so a lot of the things that I was getting from live improv, I'm still able to get through online improv. So if you're someone who's like, I do improv so I can get that live rush in person from an audience, online improv is going to be tough. But if you're someone who does improv, and I think I fall in this camp where it's more about the community, the experience with the fellow performers, and that feeling of like, oh, we did a good job, then that feels great.
Man, Vinny is heartwarming.
Yeah.
You're heartwarming, Vinny. I don't know if anyone's told you that.
I warm all your hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so positive and hopeful, and I really admire all of you for having that. And I just, to add variety to the conversation, I've just had such an opposite experience with performing. Like, I kind of refused to do it because it just made me so depressed. I was like, I don't want to do shows online. And then the few that I did, it was fun and I felt good after, but then I just went to bed and was like, what was the point? No one saw this. Or it was just a weird, because I think for me, my experience with improvisation has been so about engaging with your audience, and it's why I love it so much is that you are creating this night and this moment with your audience that's this shared experience. It's like creating inside jokes together that no one will ever understand again, and it's just really special. And that physical exchange and the energy is, and so the idea of losing that physical connection made me really, really sad. And I came from a place of fear. I wouldn't do it. Classic thing you teach in improv, don't say no. If you say no, it's probably because you're scared and you want to control things. And so I was like, no, I do not want to do virtual improv. This scares me, because I was scared that we'd never go back to being in person. And I didn't want to admit that or I just wasn't ready to be in that space where I could accept that because I love performing in person so much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel
And
that.
also, isn't it true, Ali? I don't know that we've ever met other than now, but I've seen you perform in Blind Date. Is this correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's even a heightened audience, because we need an audience member to come on stage for the whole show, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if that's a thematic for your work, but that I would understand what you just shared in the context of that, of even more so than just a general audience, like a participating active audience.
Yeah, I mean,
What is
Blind
Ali
Date.
without an audience? What is
am I
Ali without
Nothing. No, I mean, yeah, Blind Date, the least COVID-friendly show ever. You're asking a stranger to come on stage, and there's we want to get close. There's a part where we as Mimi, I'm gonna try and get the date to kiss me, and it's an intimate show, but it's a beautiful show about human connection and kind of the
Wait, the audience you really kiss the audience?
yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I love Canada. I could never. That's great. That's beautiful.
It's really exciting, and it's going to be even more shocking now to do this show. But even in the time, the idea of two strangers on stage, sharing a kiss, the audience would just go nuts for it, because it's so exciting, but it was so simple. But yeah, that show, I mean, the mantra of the show is that everyone is lovable, and that's your job as the character I play, Mimi, is to make the audience fall in love with this audience member. And so, yeah, I mean, how do you do that online? I don't know.
John's getting triggered by this.
I can't bring that online. That's a special thing. That's
right?
just you gotta be
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
Bring one person from the YouTube stream into this Zoom room.
We only like that for beef on Instagram. When people are live and they go, well, I got beef for so-and-so. Join my live. We can hash it out on live. That's the only time I think it kind of works.
Yeah, anger works great online.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what online is, isn't it? Just people being mad.
Yeah, just a place to vent.
Oh my
vent.
god. Yeah.
Adding on to what Ali has said, as much as I have enjoyed doing a lot of the majority of the live stuff that I've done, I mean the online stuff that I've done, the first time that I did a live show after more than a year, it was the first time I went up, I hosted, I was nervous, but I went up there, and the second that I was on stage and I like addressed the audience, I felt like myself for the first time in like 17 months, and I was confident, and I was like zinging the audience that was trying to like kind of heckle me because they're also all pent up and they want to talk to us, so I'm zinging them and shutting them down, and I'm like, where have you been for the past year and a half? You've just been depressed and kind of in the corner sulking the entire time, but then this version of me is back and like hasn't missed a step, is not rusty at all, is able to be funny and engaging and charismatic and charming for the audience. And I was like, where have you been for your family and friends this entire quarantine? So yeah, even enjoying that, like nothing even online even comes close to scratching that live itch that we get from that immediate feedback from the audience and from our fellow players.
It means more. It means more now. It's like, hey, you're leaving the house
Yeah.
for this. Like, whoa. Thank you. You didn't have to, but you did. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Was that transferable, Ronald? Like, did that part of you, the fact that you're able to jump back into that live part of you, did that come back to the part of you, the private Ronald? Did you get energy off that?
For a little bit, but I think it's like just you keep chasing that high of performing at a very fun level live with an audience. So yeah.
Earlier, Ali was alluding to new communities or applied improv in the brain health. Has anybody else noticed connecting with, playing with, or teaching communities maybe that you weren't working with prior to? Do you have any?
Yeah, almost exclusively. And this is one of the reasons I'm like not super interested in returning to live anytime soon, is because I feel like the live stuff was so fraught with so many challenges and difficulties, and especially when it comes to equity and accessibility and diversity, that online just obliterates. Just an incredible amount of diversity I find it way more accessible online. Physical accessibility limitations are gone. So many more, like I work with audio only improv, and so people who have visual impairments can do this at the drop of a hat. People connecting with people from around the world, people in countries who would probably, maybe see one teacher visiting can take classes anywhere. And then working on with Improv College, I'm like constantly, because it's just me working, like my overhead costs are so low, I can work on the financial barriers too, and just to make things, functional and profitable. Like there's no way I could do what I do with requiring a physical space, and then also offering, figuring out solving the problems of like accessibility feels way more doable online, and it's a puzzle like I really want to crack. That's like I'm really dedicated to figuring out how to get this to work, like not just for the people in my local community, but for everybody everywhere. And like, how do I bring improv to the greatest number of people possible, and offering just opening a door just to let them walk in at whatever level they can. So for me, that is way more exciting to me than live performing. And so I feel like I've kind of shifted from live performer to kind of like, how do I bring this and let people come in and enjoy what we do. And so yeah, that's what's got me electrified, is like, how do we break down all of the barriers that in-person improv has and make that happen online without reproducing it, like all the challenges that the in-person has.
Sounds like you're cracking the improv inclusivity algorithm or something, Vinny. It seems like you're coming.
I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. Like so many people are working. I'm just taking, like, everybody's got so many amazing ideas out there. I'm just channeling it and trying to make it work too.
Give it up for Vinny.
I know, like just.
Yeah.
Well, there's a question in the chat.
What does it say, Allie?
Has anyone bubbled up and performed in the same physical place as a group or duo or whatever on Zoom? And was it any different? Has not. Should we answer that one first and then?
Yeah, let's go for it. So that I take that to mean so multiple people in one Zoom camera bubbled up. Is that yeah?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've done it because I live with my partner who's also an improviser, but it was like one show and we did a scene where we were playing each other in our kitchen and I was like, this just feels like so like we're just making a weird home video.
So that you switched roles. You were playing yourself, or you were playing your partner?
Playing my partner. That's what we did a scene that was Jeff played me and I played Jeff, and it was just like I was like, this is almost too much, and it was like heat of pandemic and just all this stuff coming out.
Good for you guys for trying that.
That was my limited experience to that.
Imagine Allie's already freaked out and over the Zoom prov. You're spinning plates.
Couples counseling has been on the rise since COVID, and like we try to, like I'll literally say, could you put yourself in your partner's shoes, and you're literally doing it.
They're doing it and live streaming it
on a stream, and then my parents watched it. They were like the only ones.
Your phones are lighting up with texts from parents.
What's going on with Allie and Jeff? What the hell's going on?
What are they doing?
Has anyone checked out Allie and Jeff? What the hell is this?
Absurd.
A lot of insights, though, I imagine, into one another.
Oh my god, absolutely. Yeah.
It was a dark time.
It was a dark time.
It got too real.
Yeah.
For sure. Anybody else experience that? It was me.
My cats will sometimes pop into frame and steal all the attention, but that's the extent of ever having anybody else on camera with me.
Do you incorporate them into the scene?
Sometimes, mostly because the other improvisers will point out the cat and maybe even endow them as a character or something, and then I'll do like a puppet voice as I'm also performing. So fun things happen like that too.
I gotta give a shout out to all the pets that have had to endure uncalled for attention they didn't know. Also, the person or whoever is just making weird noises like every time. My friend Alston put his cat on. I was like, this cat doesn't want nothing to do with whatever you're doing. The cat doesn't get talked to like that. This is random.
I just seen her performing, and she was doing a really like an ogre character or something like that, doing a very unlike her voice. And her cat got so scared, the cat started attacking her as she was performing. Because the cat was like, "Who are you? You're a stranger."
That seems like the right reaction.
Compliment to the embodiment.
Yeah. Means you're a good actor.
That's right. That's true.
Put it on your CV.
Yeah, exactly. We've touched on this a bit, but the chat is wondering, has not being able to perform changed anyone's relationship with themselves?
Wow. Okay, so if you think, who am I? Well, I'm a person that does this. Maybe I bike, maybe I run, and I do improv. It is part of, but for some people who this is their livelihood, it really did. Not me, because it's just not my, like, I just like to bullshit with my friends, and then thankful to be able to just do it. But a lot of people I know who are just like actors, like in Minneapolis, there's a lot of theater too around town. Man, some of them are still not back to the stage, and I don't know when they're gonna even want to. It's been a huge blow for some folks, and they have had to look at who they are and what ways they want to spend their time on this earth. They really have been taking that question seriously. So I don't know. Absolutely. It's made everybody look in the mirror and reevaluate how they want to frame or approach performing or not want to do it. It's scary, especially when your job is putting on masks and that is off the table, And now it's like, well, ugh.
Well,
What do you mean? What do you mean I'm gonna be a car rental?
and being stuck inside means like, you know, looking in the mirror every day and be like, well, who is this person?
Yeah.
You know, what are my priorities? And then, like, you know, you get caught up in the hustle and bustle and like the daily routine, and then when all that is taken away and you're like, oh, I gotta ask myself questions now, and I haven't really had the time or wanted to kind of think about, and you gotta find answers for them, and you're like, oh, whoa, okay, I don't know if I have an answer for this. And you know, I'm sure I did, and I'm sure a lot of other people did. And you're stuck, you know, stuck with yourself in a room. It's like, all right, let's dig down here and figure out what's what.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I've definitely had that experience and have, you know, gone to just so many dark new places of my psyche within this time, and totally have had those thoughts of like, oh my god, what am I, like, my job is so dangerous for people right now, like knowing that, like being like, the thing that I want to do more than anything is not safe. And then thinking like, okay, well, what am I contributing to the world other than that? Like, if I can't do this, what is my role, and is it worth it? And then you go through all of that, and at the end of the day, though, I do believe that there's value in theater and performing and improvisation, but it took a deep nosedive into like, am I just some nutso narcissist who needs to like validation, or like, you know, what is
Am
the
I
purpose
only
of this?
that?
Am I only that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then too, like, I don't know if anybody else does acting for film and television, but having to do self-tapes now as the new way of auditioning has been, for me, terrible, because like, you used to be able to go into the room, throw it away, and then you leave and it's over. I can walk away and live my life. But now it's like, oh my god, I can look at every take and, you know, pick it apart, and it's that just turned into a really amplified version of staring at yourself in the mirror and being like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'd say yes, it changed my relationship with myself.
Yeah. Ron, what happened?
Hmm?
Ron, what happened?
With me? Yeah, no, definitely changed my relationship with myself. I realized, even as somebody who goes to professionals, healthcare or mental health professionals, I realize how much stuff I process and then put out on stage also to like sort of help process it for myself, whether it's through characters or satire or whatever it is. And not having that, I think, definitely has put me in some weird mental health spaces. We've had 19 months of isolation at various degrees, and also a lot of 19 months of a lot of different social things that we've all had to process kind of alone, not on stage the way that maybe we used to pre-COVID and stuff like that too. So I think John brought up the phrase like, is this who I am, when it comes to like that. But it's also, I've been thinking like, is this who I am, and why am I this way? Like, what kinds of things have factored? Why do I think this kind of comedy is funny? Why is my go-to to be like to flip like dark things into like in a cutesy way or whatever it is? Like, what are these things? And like, is it all the colonialist stuff that has been embedded through like all of these different things that I think everybody's dealing with to various degrees, because we've all had to like sit and just feed off of the internet and everything that's happening for good or bad on the internet, and process that, but not really having the outlet as much to be able to put that out there. It's different. Like, everything that I do, I have found it very hard to tackle a lot of the more satirical or things on Zoom or with internet improv. Whereas I think because I feel like a lot of that is like blocked by that energy from the audience who might like latch on to what you're putting out there. I feel like it's very, very different. So I haven't personally been able to tackle a lot of those harder subjects with online improv and online sketch and stuff like that. Just because I feel like also I don't want to add on to all the fuel that we're already seeing on the internet all the time. Whether it's like on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, it's a lot of stuff it's a lot of heavy things. So we kind of want to not just add more to that. So yeah, I definitely do feel like I still trying to figure out who I am. I'm going back to I'm still. I think that I'm still a funny person. I hope that I'm still a funny person. It's very important to me to an unhealthy degree to be a funny person. But I really have been questioning, like, why do I think things are funny, and if I really do I really think it's funny, or have I been just indoctrinated in what comedy should be? Which I feel like everybody has been feeling. If you've been doing comedy before and currently, just like I know, talking to a lot of my friends who do improv or sketch or even stand up, we've all have been questioning what kind of comedy we like and whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing, or which is a good discourse to have, but it definitely does affect you, especially when we're still, at least most of us are still staying like as isolated, or try to be careful and try to be safe and try to protect other people.
It's like finding yourself in the funny or something. Those are the biggest questions of life, almost, Ronald, that you're exploring there. That sounds cool to me. How important is it to you to be, if you're in a group of performers, are you guys having those conversations, or is it something you're just kind of working through yourself? Is it important to you to be in a group that's also like willing to like go to those places in conversation, not necessarily on stage, or does it not necessarily need to be the case? People can play however they want to play.
What'd you say, Kev?
Are the conversations, is it important to be on the same page, I guess, with other people you're performing with around those types of more personal conversations? Like, is that common in the groups that you perform in, or is it not as common?
All my groups, personally, it does feel like there's very little boundaries about what we share, and so there's a whole lot of like processing off stage that we do together, and I think that's just I intentionally like that. So I don't know if it's been very helpful throughout the pandemic to just like have that part of like my groups. Is like, all right, this is gonna be a lot of fun. But also, when the show's done, we can also like really dig into like what's going on. Like, it's just been so much too, especially like for like Minneapolis groups, we just really haven't processed like what has been going on, like truly, like at all. And so it's been nice to be able to have like just check-ins with my improv groups about like, I guess it has been therapeutic. It's been therapeutic, Kev. We've been really therapeutic, and it's yeah, it's been nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've been incorporating a lot of check-ins and discussions about boundaries in my practice when I talk about, because I coach a bunch of groups. And one of the things that I think people have appreciated is just like being really open of like, and starting that conversation, because just to give the context, that Improv College, we have improv teams and we work together for 10 months. And so it's really important early on, we get to know one another, but also figure out like, where are our boundaries? What do we like and what do we not like? And it makes people kind of like, oh, I've never asked myself, what do I like in improv, or what do I not like in improv, and where do we want to go together? And I think it's really important when we are improvising to like invite people to walk through doors, and then be okay with them not wanting to walk through those doors that we open for them, and having that conversation like, yeah, improv is opening a bunch of doors up, and not having to go through the door that's open in front of you, and being okay with the person not going through a door that you've opened up for them. And so incorporating that idea into my improv practice has been hugely helpful for just opening up that conversation, to making that improv feel like everyone's like taking care of one another. And then if something does come up, we've already got a framework for talking about it, because we've already kind of shared those ideas. And I think as this, people from different communities and different cultural backgrounds and different experiences, there's a huge richness that comes from sharing that, but also like a huge just like, oh, these are my things, these are your things, let's see where we meet and find the common ground. And 99.99% of the time, there's zero problems and everyone's having a great time. But you also want to be prepared for that. Every so often, like, oh, we hit something there, and let's talk about it, unpack it, and be okay with it, and make sure we're having fun and taking care of one another. So for me, like, those go hand in hand. Like, because if I can't do my best work if I don't trust you, and if I can't trust you, I can't be vulnerable. And if we can't be vulnerable, what are we doing up here? Like, there's no point.
What's up? Yeah, why are we in a heist together? Come on.
Yeah, I would have to say that's a big part of the improv I feel really particularly passionate about, and since we've already talked about blind date, I'll talk about it a little more. That's kind of the goal of the show is we want to get to know this date and this person. So you want to find out about the time that they've had their heart broken, or they experienced death, or what their political views are, or a time where they've been afraid, or a time where they felt very proud. Like, we're trying to really find out the information you would want to know from your life partner. But to do that, a big piece of it is I need to offer it up first, so that it's an equal shared experience. And when I play the character Mimi, I am completely honest. I tell all truthful stories about myself, and it's a really special experience, and it surpasses what I ever thought was possible with improvisation, because you're laughing so hard at like the spontaneous show, and then you cried in it, and you felt like you connected to someone, and you remembered something that happened to you that was similar to them, and then you leave feeling like you've had this really well-rounded experience that, I don't know, I feel so excited about having had experience doing improvisation in that way. Now I'm like, it's so hard not to try to strive for that every time. So yeah, I'm a big, I love going for things that are real and talking about things that are important to people, or that are just that matter to them, and having that as the content for improv.
It's almost like to tie what Vinny and Ali had said, of like this idea of opening doors, but both going through them, like offering of yourself. Ali was expecting, I'm gonna open this door and tell you to go through it because that's where funny is, or something. There's a sense of agency where people can choose to go through it if that's what they're feeling comfortable with in the moment.
Yeah, and then having support systems within either your class or your show, like in Blind Date, there's all of these things in place to keep them safe. Like, you can call a timeout at any point, and we step outside of the play and check in.
I love those parts. Yeah.
Like, right? So you have all of that available so that we can feel supported, so that if you're available to it, you can go to that place. And then if you're not, we're not going to be like, we're going to support that. There's no punishment for not being available to do those things. It's like, whatever you're comfortable with is what we love. Great.
And what a flip that is on I think the reality for a lot of people. Like, improv tends to be one of the scarier things people can imagine if they haven't done improv, and then to actually imagine where you'd feel scared but then actually feel safe there, that's like a radical shift. You can give people that experience. I mean, that's got to be highly transferable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're learning you don't have to have that kind of fear in anything in life. That's what I love about the pandemic. People are just like, what? I don't need to feel this pressure. I'll go do this exact same thing down the street or someplace else, or I just won't. I love that.
I think people are learning to build things for themselves or find their own little places, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to rely on existing structures. I can kind of like do my own thing, because that's what we've had to do for like the last year and a half.
Check out what the chat's saying. Have people found performance spilling over more often into non-performance contexts, like doing chores at home, or maybe switching roles with your partner? Or this is good. Or doing bits for yourself. That's a good one. Do you find is anybody doing bits for themselves?
Always.
I think that was happening before COVID, but I think it's now unbearable for anybody who needs to be around me, like my partner or any of my coworkers that were like, they are just like, you need to stop. You need to start doing shows again.
Yeah.
We don't want to be dragons with you, or whatever weird thing that I'm trying to endow them as.
I will always run any.
I'm in.
Let's do it. Yeah. Council of Dragons. We don't even say hi in the Zoom. We just automatically jump into the group game.
Yeah.
I assumed we've been dragons this whole time, personally.
Me as well.
Never stop. Never stop. I think, I don't know. It's been nice to see people incorporating their, like, from a school standpoint or whatever. It's been nice to see people incorporating their partners or whoever's in their life. Like, that's been fascinating. It isn't as frequent, but I always like to see it when someone's like, oh, yeah, I got my partner and they're doing it. They're in the class now, too, in the other room. That's really, because this is, all right, it's one thing. My little soapbox, and then I'm done. But I always think about, like, wow, man, what does it take for people to feel like they have happy, healthy homes? And if this is going to provide, like, a happy, healthy home, then maybe it'll provide, like, a happier community. And I think it just kind of is, that's just, that's pretty much it. So I was like, oh, if this improv goes into a home and there's more bits and they're happier, that's better. That might be better for the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's
Kev,
beautiful.
thanks. Are you rolling? Are you rolling on the knee?
No,
What is this?
I'm rolling on your response. I think this is me. This is me finding. This is me settling into my happy, healthy. This is not really a home, but it's starting to feel like a home. The more I listen to you,
Oh,
it's
good.
beautiful. Because what is the love languages? It's like how are we like what is play? If we're going to be playing with each other, do we feel safe enough with each other at home? I mean, that's a way, obviously, a way people connect and give and receive love and respect. So I feel that.
Yeah, I feel like this is just giving me a good reminder to do it more. Like, it's funny how when you do this for a living or you teach it, and then you've been teaching all day, people all these great tools, and then you go home and you're like, oh no, I don't want to do this and that. And then it's like, wait, why am I not practicing what I preach? I have to remind myself of that, but just being goofy and doing a bit to yourself. Like, why not? I think there's so many moments in the pandemic where I feel like I just went so heavy, so serious, so like unattached from myself that it's been feeling like life back again to when you do have that stuff spill over and you are like at a stop sign doing a scene to yourself. I don't know. I think it's a good sign. Like,
Is that what you're doing, Allie? Is that what you're doing?
I'm doing everything. I don't know. But I don't know. I thought that was a nice just reminder for myself that I'm like, oh, I need to just play more. I need to do more bits with myself.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years is like how play becomes a form of intimacy. Because if you watch little kids, they'll play with literally anybody. Like, I just met you on this playground. Let's play. We're best friends. We'll run around play. Everybody's, we're all playing tag. We've all just met. Whereas as you get older and you just get socialized into restricting where you can and can't play. Like, in this context you can play, in this context you cannot play, and then it just becomes restricted to people who you are very intimate with, either like very close people or your partners, or maybe siblings that you've known for a long time, and there's this real sense of like, I can't play unless we've reached a certain sense of intimacy. But what improv helps us do is really break down the barriers of play and become like, oh, I can play with this person that we just kind of met a little bit, and it becomes fun, and that barrier of intimacy kind of drops. And I think for a lot of people, improv is scary because it's like, oh, part of it is I can't be that intimate with people that I've just met, and there's that form of like revealing the self and privacy that comes with being intimate. And if you only have that experience of being playful with the people that are like very, very intimate with you, then they get conflated and it becomes like really hard to become playful. And one of the things I love most about improv is how you can become playful with anybody and everybody, and how much joy that brings. But also it elevates I think they feed into each other. The intimacy is heightened by the play. And so when you're with the partner and then you can both play together, those are some of the best moments, and those are the greatest memories. So some parts of the day.
It also makes me think about not shrinking when somebody doesn't want to play. Like, somebody in the world, like, I'd say most people don't want to play, or maybe they do deep down, but it's not readily available to them. And you make an offer at the line at the grocery store and it doesn't get received, and then to not walk home in shame with your groceries, Yeah. Maybe I'm just talking about my life now.
Oh, that's all
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, that's real. You can't that's just weird. You can't invite somebody to play, and if they say no, you get mad. That's the direct opposite of the goal.
Yeah. You opened the door. They didn't want to walk through. It's like, all right, great. Be okay with that.
Yeah.
I will walk back and forth through this door for the next 10 minutes until you walk away.
Yeah. I also don't want them in there while I'm thinking, oh, they're in here for me. Ugh. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want nobody to join my...
Yeah, you want people to go through the door with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm in a bouncy house and we're bouncing around and I have to look at you going, oh my gosh, you hate this though, but I'm having a good time, but you hate this, get out. Get out, go do something that's going to fulfill you. I'm going to be here in this bouncy house with my heart content. I don't need this weird, let's just all be happy. So get out of here, and I'll meet you at the hot dog stand or whatever. I don't know
Allie,
if that makes sense.
I don't, maybe, what would Keith say? I think you're talking about Keith Johnstone.
I don't know. Probably, but I don't understand the context of the question.
What would he say about what?
About what? Yeah, what
Yeah,
would
about
Keith
what?
say?
Hard to say.
Is it Keith Johnstone? Keith Sweat? Keith
Ooh, Keith Sweat!
What would
Yeah.
Keith Sweat say?
Let's go through all the Keiths we know and just say what they would say.
Keith Raniere.
Oh no!
But Allie, you're starting, or I saw a sign, and it said on Main Street that said Tightrope Improv, and this is you, correct?
Yes, it is.
It says, is this? But is Keith John? You're trained in this Keith Johnson. Maybe I'm just gonna let go of this Keith question.
No, it's got to be Keith Johnstone. Allie, you know
Yeah.
Keith? You know Keith Johnstone?
I do know Keith Johnstone.
Then
Yes.
it's got to be about Keith Johnstone.
Yeah.
It ain't about Keith Sweat.
Yeah. I mean, which question should we go? Do you want to hear about our theater, or do you want to talk about Keith?
I would love to hear about your theater. I would love to maybe hear maybe we can do a go around on kind of where might we find you? Some of you, I think, maybe 3 of you are going to be participating in this fest in the next few days. Other people on the internet or live shows. I would love to just do a little go around and hear what's up. And I know you have this theater, a physical space that's opening.
Yes, we do. So actually, it all started March of 2020, before the pandemic. We had gotten a space, and we're really excited to open a new improv theater in Vancouver. And then we signed the lease at the beginning of March, and then a couple weeks later, the world shut down. It was just such a face plant, especially to such a specific industry that just can't survive. We were like, this is comical how terrible this is. But anyway, so we tried to hang on to that space for a while, and we were able to get some of the rent subsidies, and then we held on for 6 months, and then lockdowns just kept happening, and we didn't get the other rent subsidy, and just everything kind of came crashing down, and we sadly of December last year had to pack up the dream and put it into storage, and that was really tough, because especially you gear up to this really exciting moment. We're going to open a theater, and then a worldwide pandemic. So we've been just kind of hanging on, wondering when we've all wanted to keep pursuing it and not give up, but when to do it. When's the safe time? Are we nuts? Should we never do this? What? But I have a Craigslist addiction, so I've just been combing Craigslist every night before bed, and ended up finding this great space on Main Street, and things kind of all fell into place about a month ago, and we were like, we're gonna do it. Things are working out. So we've been it's been a total classic improv theater, low budget. We're doing all the construction ourselves. So we've been in there building that, and so we are gonna open next weekend.
Ooh.
So so it's happening. So we have an open house this Saturday during the day for people to just come by and see the space and stand on the stage and ask us questions, have a drink, whatever. We welcome everybody, and then next weekend we're gonna start doing shows. So Maestro on Friday nights, which is a great show for anybody to come play. You don't need to have an improv experience, or you can have a lot of improv experience. It's one of those great formats that just allows such a variety of people to work together. And then Saturday nights we're doing guerrilla theater. So, and we're doing guerrilla theater at the festival on Thursday night. So come check it out. That's us. Mm-hmm.
And Ronald, you do, is it a workshop on popular culture and improv? Am I getting this correct?
I have a workshop that I think is on Thursday. I was told that it was almost sold out, and it's a improvised pop culture focusing on just letting go. I know that a lot of people, especially when you're new, or I know we have a lot of ESL students who will join in and get a little bit bogged down or a little insecure when pop culture is brought up. When we're doing improv, we're all dragons in the scene. It doesn't matter if you don't know Game of Thrones or if you don't know like Simpsons lore and stuff like that. When stuff pops up, whatever you say becomes the reality, and that's basically what that workshop is going to be about. Just improvising pop culture and being comfortable with saying Star Wars is about a bunch of weird rocks who are talking to each other. It doesn't need to follow canon or lore or whatever is happening. I also have a show with my group, Little Mountain Improv, that's going to be happening on Friday. I think the live tickets are sold out, but there are some online tickets that you can still purchase. So that's what's happening with me during the festival.
Vinny, what's happening with you during the festival?
I'm part of the ensemble, so I'm part of the Vancouver Improv Fest ensemble. With a bunch of awesome people from around the world. We got people in Toronto, in London, in India, all over the place. Just a really great mix. And Australia. I'm super pumped because we're all being directed by Mind of a Snail, who put on these incredible audio-visual fiestas. It's like a mind-bending, soul-altering experience to just part of what they're doing, so watching it has got to be equally mind-bending.
What is happening?
Yeah, so it's happening.
I want this. I need this.
Yeah. It's online improv and in-person improv. Like I've never done before, and I think it really pushes the technology and the creativity of everybody involved to like a really like. I find it challenging in all the best ways, and so this is happening Friday and Saturday. I think at the Culch in person in Vancouver, and then online as well if you're not able to go. And so, I'm super hyper pumped to be part of this project, and I can't wait to see the madness that erupts on stage and online.
And John, I don't believe you're performing at this fest, but where might we find you online? Where might we find you performing?
Nowhere online right now.
Okay.
So right now, this is
except for right now.
Just right here.
This is the last time you'll catch me on Beyonce's internet for a while. But no, I'm down. I'm always down. I'm always down to play online or offline. But in person right now, we have next available thing will be this Thursday. I don't know if you're in Minneapolis. Whoever's watching this, maybe not. But if you are at Huge Theater, we have a Blackout show. Blackout's all black improv group, and our special guest is Janata, who is a queer black woman author, premier, extraordinaire, literary, brilliant thinker, like too cool for the room, but very happy that she's going to be our guest. So if you're in town, the show starts at 8:30 Central Standard, and no pre-sale tickets. We're trying to really see what it's like. So we'll probably have a line. If anybody needs a chair, I'll be happy to grab a chair. But that's what we got. All right, Kev, that's what we have.
And we also have, I was telling you before this, I listened to a podcast that was really excellent. Let me just say, you speaking on your relationship with your mom and the family history there was beautiful. Do you remember the name of that podcast? They could just type your name into the podcast machine, I'm sure. But
yeah. No, because I'm a horrible person. But let me.
Sorry to put you on the spot. But if you just type John's full name into iCasts, iTunes podcast.
Yeah.
Beautiful podcast. Beautiful conversation.
With Amy Pacino.
Yes.
That's it. Amy Pacino. Got it. At Yes But Why podcast. That's it.
So you can also listen to John there. And something you were saying about the line prompted me to review the chat again. And Amy's asking about the state of physical spaces. So there's something about reconnecting with the physical spaces, and this fast is part physical space, part virtual space. Are there things, thinking about your communities, that where it's the state of physical spaces, and are there things that you'd like to see shift as we return to those spaces?
Yeah. Well, I'm bringing a physical space to Vancouver. Yeah, I would just love more theaters and more small theaters, and places for people to be able to perform and to just go and see live theater, no matter what kind of theater it is. It's exciting to have arts venues and to create a community. My hope for us is just to have more of a community where people can go see one show at this venue one night and another at this venue another night, and that we have this
ecosystem.
Ecosystem would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll say that I think has changed and evolved about being in physical space with people that I think is great, and I think it started with the Me Too movement, and we've gotten to an even better place with how we can communicate with each other, is just being able to talk about consent and how we operate physically with each other. That, now we've all experienced this pandemic, and having a virus in our world that we're all susceptible to. It's interesting how that's changed how much more sensitive we are just about, like, hey, can I be closer than 6 feet distance from you? Are you comfortable with this, and this? And I think that's a great thing, that we're just learning how to communicate with each other a lot better and normalizing those conversations. And I think that's exciting.
Oh yeah. That's it. No one's gonna top that. Allie, well said. Well said. That's it. Come on.
That's it.
I know the physical. I just wanted to add, I know the physical spaces here in Montreal are slowly opening up, and Montreal Improv is opening up a brand new space after having been shut down, and Theatre St. Catherine is doing shows. So I think there is this the faucet's not on full, but it's slowly quietly being opened up. So it feels good for the community.
It's also weird when that happens too, when we do turn the faucet on full, because maybe this is just me, but I've been thinking about it. But it also says to the people who, I'm just gonna use the words, people who do not get vaccinated, who just do not believe in the science of it. And I'm not here to whatever, but I can't help but feel a certain sadness, knowing that even just some nations that are just we're gonna go back to fully open. We don't look, if you die, you die. We're just gonna go back to fully open. And even as things open up in physical space, I can't help but feel a little bit of that. It's not dread, but some kind of, we know simultaneously, while we also gotta grab for the air and get oxygen to ourselves, we know simultaneously some people aren't, and that's just what it is. That's hard to grapple with sometimes for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard to grapple with, but good to be honest about. The title of the panel being "How are we feeling now?" I think it's I was thinking, let's go for a good feeling, but let's go for a true feeling, whatever's feeling true for people right now, entering this exciting return of the Vancouver Improv Fest, which is not fully online. It's partially online and partially in person. And so there's a lot of exciting programming and stuff coming up in the next few days, between tomorrow, well, also right now, because we're kind of kicking it off, tomorrow and Saturday. And I do want to give a shout out to the sponsors of the fest, to the BC Arts Council, the City of Vancouver, and Worth Hats. You can buy hats, and then every time you buy a hat, it goes to one counting session for somebody who couldn't have otherwise afforded that counting session. Then you wear the hat on your head or hang it up. And also thank you to the four of you for participating in this. It's been so lovely to see your virtual faces and smiles and hear the questions from the chat. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. Franco on chat, Patrick Dodd on intro,
Yeah.
Amy Shostak, organizing a lot of things and working very hard.
Come on,
Thank you
Amy.
to everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Kev.
Woo!
Thank you,
Good job.
Kev. Hey, Patrick's back, and this time there's not an awkward delay while I don't understand what's going on. I'm just bopping to the music. Yeah, thank you all so much for doing this. It's been a wonderful thing to watch. It's been really great to see all your faces. And thank you, Kev, for facilitating the conversation. If you're watching and you enjoyed the panel, you can donate to the festival if you like to support the festival. It's on the website. And check out the workshops. There's lots of great workshops like Ronald's this week and lots of great shows. So check it out. You can see more of these wonderful people. And thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
Woo!
Get into it. What's up?